The bustling coffee shop hummed with life, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, mingled with the soft chatter of patrons, and the gentle strumming of a guitar in the corner. Warm, golden sunlight filtered through the large windows, casting a cozy glow over the mismatched tables and chairs where friends and strangers alike gathered. Today was supposed to be my day, a day of celebration and recognition. For the past 7 years, I had dedicated myself to this non-profit organization, often staying late to ensure every detail was perfect, solving problems that others avoided, and mentoring new volunteers, even though it wasn't part of my job description. My supervisor, Victoria, had been hinting for months that I was in line for the program director position, and today, at this very gathering, my promotion would finally be announced. I had envisioned this moment countless times, the applause, the pride, the validation of my hard work. I adjusted the collar of my emerald green blouse and glanced around the table. My team was in high spirits, celebrating the success of our latest community project. At the head of the table, Victoria stood, tapping her mug with a spoon to get everyone's attention. The room quieted, and my heart raced with anticipation. Today, she began, her voice carrying over the hushed crowd, I want to take a moment to recognize someone truly exceptional, someone who has shown incredible dedication and talent in just a short time here at the organization. It's rare to find someone who can make such an impact in only 6 months. My smile faltered. 6 months? Victoria turned to my colleague. Emma, the newest addition to our team. Emma, she continued, you have exceeded all our expectations. Your creativity, leadership, and problem-solving skills have impressed us all, which is why I'm thrilled to officially announce your promotion to program director. Congratulations. The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen, my fingers clenched around the handle of my coffee mug. My throat tightened as I forced a smile onto my face, clapping along with the others as Emma stood, blushing, and graciously accepted her new title. This wasn't happening. I felt my world tilt slightly as Victoria turned toward me, as if remembering I existed. She smiled warmly. And of course, Emily, you've been such a valuable member of the team, she said. We appreciate everything you do. That was it. A hollow acknowledgement. A pat on the back after 7 years of hard work. I swallowed the lump in my throat and smiled wider. Of course, Emma absolutely deserves it, I said, lifting my mug in a toast. Victoria nodded approvingly. She does a lot more than you already, Emily. You should take notes. Laughter filled the air. Emma giggled awkwardly and muttered, oh, I wouldn't say that. But the words were already out there, hanging in the air, like a slap across my face. I laughed along with them. What else could I do? Cry? Beg? Ask her why she had strung me along for months, only to humiliate me. Instead, I lifted my mug to my lips and took a slow sip. As the gathering continued, I smiled, I chatted, I celebrated. But inside, a storm was brewing. When the event finally ended, and I stepped outside into the cool evening air, I pulled out my phone. My fingers trembled slightly as I composed a short, simple email to the HR department. Resignation letter. Dear Victoria, please find my official resignation letter attached. Effective immediately. Best, Emily. I hesitated for only a second, before hitting send. As soon as the email left my outbox, I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Relief, but I wasn't done yet. On Monday, Victoria was about to find out exactly what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. The office felt different. That Monday morning, I walked in through the front doors, with a sense of quiet satisfaction, my resignation letter already sitting in Victoria's inbox. She had no idea what was coming. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The receptionist greeted me with a bright smile. My coworkers gathered near the break room, chatting over their morning tea. Emma was already at her desk, basking in the afterglow of her big promotion. I wasn't angry at Emma. She hadn't done anything wrong. The real problem sat inside the corner office. The woman who had lied to my face for months, making me believe I was valued, only to discard me like I was nothing. I took my time settling in, calmly placing my bag beside my desk and booting up my computer. I wanted Victoria to come to me, and right on cue, her office door swung open. Emily, my office. Now, the entire floor went silent. People exchanged nervous glances. No one had ever heard Victoria sound like that before. Urgent, confused, desperate. I stood up slowly, smoothed my blouse, and walked into her office. The door clicked shut behind me. Victoria was already seated at her desk, my resignation letter printed out in front of her. She looked up, eyes scanning my face, as if trying to figure out whether this was a joke. You're leaving? Her voice was incredulous. Yes. I sat down across from her. folding my hands in my lap. Effective immediately. But why? She asked. This is so sudden. We didn't discuss this. I let out a soft laugh. We didn't discuss Emma's promotion either, but here we are. Her jaw tightened. Emily, that wasn't personal. She just outperformed you. She's been here for 6 months, I said, tilting my head. But sure, if that's what you believe. Victoria leaned forward. You know I appreciate you, right? You've been such an important part of this organization for 7 years. I don't want to lose you. I stared at her for a long moment, taking in the sheer audacity of her words. You don't want to lose me. I repeated, raising an eyebrow. But you had no problem overlooking me for a promotion I worked years for. You had no problem laughing when I was humiliated at my own celebration event, and you had no problem telling me to take notes from someone who just got here. Her expression shifted, her usual calm confidence beginning to crack. Look, she said, running a hand through her hair. Maybe I made a mistake, maybe I should have handled it differently. But you resigning out of nowhere, this isn't the right move, Emily. You're making an emotional decision. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I sent that email on Friday night, Victoria. If this was just emotion, I would have stormed out that same evening, but I didn't. I planned this. And I'm leaving on my terms. Her hand curled into a fist on the desk. She wasn't used to losing. So what's your plan? She asked, her voice sharp now. Go to one of our competitors, because I have to remind you, Emily, that we have non-compete agreements. I laughed again. Oh, she had no idea. I don't need to go to a competitor, I said, standing up. You see, Victoria, while you were busy ignoring my contributions, someone else wasn't. She frowned. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, relishing the moment. Do you remember Sarah Thompson? The former director who left last year. Victoria tensed. Of course, I remember. Sarah had been one of the organization's most valuable leaders. But she and Victoria had clashed too many times. Victoria had forced her out, thinking she was replaceable. Sarah reached out to me a few months ago. I continued. She's starting her own foundation, and she wanted me to lead the community outreach department. A director-level position. I turned her down at first. I was loyal to this organization. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. But Friday night changed everything. I called her right after I left the event, and she made the offer again. I accepted. Silence. Pure, unfiltered shock. Victoria stared at me like she was trying to process the information. You're leaving for Sarah's foundation, she finally said, voice tight. I start next Monday. I confirmed. She opened her mouth, closed it, then exhaled sharply. Emily, be reasonable. This organization has been your home for 7 years. We can work something out. We can talk about. I don't want to talk. I interrupted smoothly. This decision is final. She clenched her jaw. You won't be able to come back. I smiled. I won't need to. I turned. Walking to the door. Just before I stepped out, I paused. You know, Victoria, I said over my shoulder. It's funny how you only realize someone's worth when they walk away. Then I walked out, closing the door behind me, leaving her alone with the consequences of her actions, and it felt amazing. When I stepped out of Victoria's office, I could feel all eyes on me. The open workspace had gone eerily silent. The usual Monday morning chatter was replaced by a thick tension in the air. My coworkers weren't even pretending to work anymore. Heads peeked over cubicle walls. Eyes darted away the second I met their gaze. They knew something had happened, and in a matter of minutes, they were going to know exactly what. I returned to my desk with a serene calmness, opening my email, and forwarding my resignation letter to the entire leadership team. Official resignation notice. Effective immediately, I am stepping down from my position at the organization. It has been an experience I will not forget. Best, Emily. Simple, professional. But the underlying message was clear. I was done. A few seconds later, the first whisper spread through the floor. Then another. Then another. The wildfire had begun. I didn't have to wait long before someone approached me. Emily, is it true? I turned to see Rachel, one of the few people I actually trusted in this place. She looked stunned. I nodded, giving her a small smile. Yeah, it's time for me to move on. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. Wow, just wow. I mean, I get it, but I didn't think you'd actually leave. Neither did Victoria, I muttered. She let out a half laugh, half scoff. Well, she's an idiot. Everyone here knows you deserve that promotion. A few more coworkers started creeping toward my desk, pretending to look busy while blatantly eavesdropping. Even Emma had poked her head up from across the room, her eyes darting between me and Victoria's office, like she wasn't sure if she should feel guilty or relieved. I could sense her hesitation. She wanted to say something, but she didn't. And honestly, I didn't care anymore. 10 minutes later, just as I was packing up the last of my personal items, my inbox pinged with an urgent meeting request from Victoria. Urgent? Let's talk. 15 minutes. Location: my office. I stared at the email for a long moment before sighing. Desperate people do desperate things. I took my time walking back to her office. When I stepped inside, the door closed softly behind me. Victoria looked different now. The arrogance, gone. The smugness, gone. Instead, she looked like someone who had just realized they made a very, very big mistake. Emily, she started, leaning forward. Let's talk about this. You're making a rash decision. I let out a soft laugh. Victoria, I gave this 7 years of my life. The only rash decision here was yours. Her lips pressed into a tight line. Look, I admit that I mishandled things with the promotion, but we can fix this. I'll match whatever Sarah's offering you. I tilted my head. You don't even know what Sarah's offering me. Does it matter? She shot back. We'll figure something out. I can get you a better salary, more flexibility, maybe even. I held up a hand, cutting her off. You don't get it, do you? Silence. I leaned forward. It was never about the money. It was about respect. Her jaw tensed. I don't want to stay in an organization where my work is ignored until I threaten to leave. I don't want to be matched only when I have one foot out the door. If I wasn't valuable to you before, why should I believe I suddenly am now? Victoria's nostrils flared slightly. She wasn't used to losing control of the conversation. Emily, be reasonable. You're walking away from a stable position for what? Some startup that might not even succeed. I smiled. That startup is being run by someone who values my contributions, and I'd rather bet on myself than stay in a place that treats me like I'm disposable. I stood up. Goodbye, Victoria. And with that, I walked out. Packing the last of my things felt surreal. As I carried my box to the elevator, a few coworkers clapped softly, small acknowledgments of my silent victory. They knew. Emma, still sitting at her desk, finally gathered the courage to stand up and walk toward me. Emily, I didn't know. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't know what? Her mouth opened, then closed again. She knew. Of course she knew. She might not have orchestrated it, but she had benefited from my loss. It's fine, Emma, I said, not unkindly. Enjoy the promotion. She flinched, but I was already stepping into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I let out a slow breath. This wasn't just the end. This was the beginning. Thompson and Associates. Sarah's foundation was smaller than my old one, but it pulsed with energy and ambition. It was filled with people who were building something, not just maintaining a machine that someone else had created. I stepped through the doors, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Excitement. No more being overlooked. No more being undervalued. No more Victoria. As I rode the elevator up to the top floor, my reflection in the mirror-like doors looked different, more confident, more alive. This wasn't just a new job, this was freedom. The moment I stepped into my new office, a real office with floor-to-ceiling windows and a door that I could actually close, I knew I had made the right choice. The morning was filled with introductions, meetings, and onboarding, but everything about it felt different from my old workplace. For starters, people here actually listened. During my first leadership meeting, Sarah turned to me, smiling. Emily, I want you to take the lead on our new initiative. We're restructuring our community outreach, and with your experience, you're the best person for it. Just like that, no begging, no proving my worth over and over. They already knew my value. I nodded, suppressing the urge to glance around and see if this was some kind of test. I'd love to, I said simply. A few of my new colleagues smiled in approval. Sarah nodded, as if she had expected no other answer. This was how things should be. No games, no politics, just respect. The first sign that things were falling apart at Victoria's organization came 2 days after I left. My phone buzzed with a message from Rachel. Emily, OMG, Victoria is losing it. Ever since you left, everything's a mess. I smirked, but I kept reading. She had to call an emergency meeting because no one knows how to handle half the things you used to do. Turns out Emma doesn't actually do more than you already. I laughed out loud. Of course Victoria had overestimated Emma's abilities and underestimated mine. A second message came in, and get this. 3 donors already reached out. asking for you by name. When they found out you left, they weren't happy. I felt a rush of satisfaction. Victoria had spent years taking me for granted, and now she was learning a lesson she should have learned a long time ago. Some people are not replaceable. That afternoon, while reviewing strategy documents in my new office, my assistant poked her head in. "Emily, you have a call on line 1. It's a company called Green Thumb Initiatives. They said they used to work with you and want to discuss moving their account over." I blinked. Green Thumb Initiatives was one of the biggest donors at my old organization. "Put them through," I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. A moment later, I heard the familiar voice of Linda Green, the CEO. "Emily," she said, warmth in her tone. "I heard you moved to Thompson and Associates. Let's talk." I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. "Of course, Linda. What can I do for you?" Within a week, 3 of my former organization's biggest donors had reached out to me, all expressing the same frustration. "Things aren't the same since you left. We don't feel like we're in good hands anymore. If you're leading community outreach at Thompson and Associates, we're interested in moving." And so, one by one, they did. I wasn't stealing donors. I didn't need to. They were leaving on their own because they trusted me, not the organization I used to work for. And Victoria, she was scrambling. Rachel kept feeding me updates. "Emma is drowning. She's not ready for this role at all." I heard Victoria yelling at the leadership team in a closed-door meeting this morning. "The board is furious about the donor losses. Investors are not happy. Word is they're putting pressure on Victoria to fix this fast." I could only imagine the look on her face, the panic, the regret, and the best part, I wasn't even trying to hurt her. I was just thriving somewhere else. That Friday afternoon, just as I was finishing up for the day, my phone buzzed with an email from Victoria. I raised an eyebrow and opened it. "A proposal. Emily, I'd like to have a conversation. I believe we can come to a mutually beneficial arrangement. If you're open to it, let's set up a meeting next week to discuss options. Looking forward to your response, Victoria." I leaned back in my chair, laughing softly. She was desperate, and for the first time in 7 years, I had all the power. I stared at Victoria's email for a few moments, letting the sheer irony of it settle in. The woman who had dismissed me so easily. The woman who had laughed at my expense. The woman who had told me "Emma does a lot more than you already," was now the one reaching out, and I knew exactly why. Her world was falling apart. I took my time crafting my reply. No urgency, no desperation, just calculated control. "Proposal. Victoria, I'm available for a brief meeting Monday at 10 a.m. Let me know if that works for you. Best, Emily." I hit send and closed my laptop. I wasn't walking into that meeting to negotiate. I was walking in to watch her squirm. At precisely 10 a.m., I walked into the familiar glass office building I had left behind weeks ago. Everything felt different. The receptionist hesitated before greeting me, unsure if I was a guest or a ghost from the past. Employees stole glances as I passed by. They all knew. And then, as I stepped into Victoria's office, I saw her. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, a nervous energy in the way she sat, her fingers tapping restlessly on the desk. She wasn't the same arrogant woman who had belittled me weeks ago. "Thanks for coming in," she said, forcing a tight smile. I sat down, crossing my legs, and placing my hands in my lap. "Of course, what's on your mind?" She exhaled and leaned forward. "I won't waste your time. We need you back, Emily." I said nothing, just let the words hang in the air, heavy with irony. She continued, "I underestimated your role here. I'll admit that, but we can make this right. If you return, I'm prepared to offer you a substantial raise, a senior executive title, and full decision-making authority over your department." She sat back, clearly expecting me to be impressed. I wasn't. I tilted my head. "So let me get this straight. You had 7 years to recognize my value, 7 years to promote me, 7 years to respect my work. But instead, you passed me over for someone with 6 months of experience and told me to take notes on how to be better. And now, after losing key donors and watching your organization spiral, suddenly you're offering me everything I deserved all along." Victoria's jaw tightened. "Emily, come on." I held up a hand, stopping her. "Let me ask you something. If I never left, would I be sitting in this chair right now? Would you have given me this offer out of appreciation? Or are you only doing it now because you're losing control?" Her silence said everything. She tried to mask it, but I saw it in her eyes. The truth. She never saw my worth, until it cost her everything. I let out a small, amused laugh. "That's what I thought." Victoria's desperation broke through. "Emily, be smart about this. You have history here, a future. Do you really want to throw away all the hard work you put into this organization? I smiled. Victoria, you still don't get it, do you? I stood up, smoothing my blazer and leaned slightly forward. I never needed you. You needed me. And now you're finally realizing that. Her face darkened, but I could see it, the flicker of panic behind her eyes. I turned, walking to the door, but paused just before stepping out. You should take notes, Victoria, I said softly, echoing her own words back at her. Maybe next time you'll learn to value the people who actually make your organization run. Then I walked out, and this time, I never looked back. Back at Thompson and Associates, things were thriving. Our donor roster had nearly doubled. More and more companies were leaving Victoria's sinking ship and turning to us. And then, on a quiet Friday afternoon, Rachel sent me one final update that made me laugh out loud. Victoria just got fired. The board forced her out. They couldn't recover from all the donor losses. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee. Perfect. Victoria had thought I was replaceable. Turns out she was. And me, I was exactly where I was meant to be.